Hello, everyone. I will do it today. To sum up a movie, the film starts with Cecilia wakes up in the early hours of the morning. She gets out of bed slowly so as not to wake up her husband, Adrian. She then digs under the bed for the drug she has hidden there. He moves a little in his sleep as she's leaving the bedroom, which wakes her up 100%. Slowly and quietly, Cecilia walks to the changing room and gets a duffel bag full of clothes. She then puts the medicine inside the bag as well. So she can keep an eye on her sleeping husband. She then points the hallway camera at him and makes sure it's hooked up. She goes into a room that looks like a lab and turns off the alarm and home cams. She checks the camera to see if he's awake and is scared of any noise she makes. She quickly gets dressed and sneaks out of the house through the garage. For the first time, Zeus the dog scares her when she goes outside. When she takes off his electric collar, the dog sets off the car alarm, and Cecilia runs to the fence. As she moves, the bedroom light comes on. When she gets to a road after running through the woods, she waits for her sister Emily to pick her up. After more than a second, she still looks scared. Cecilia gets in the car when her sister finally shows up. Out of nowhere, her husband comes up behind her, yells at her, and breaks the window. He finds her diazepam on the ground as they drive off. After 2 weeks, Cecilia is at the house of a friend named James. He talks her into going outside to the mailbox even though she's still scared. When she goes to open it, she sees a guy running and runs back inside. Tomorrow her friend is remodeling her house while Cecilia is hiding her computer camera. All of a sudden the doorbell rings. Emily's at the front door. Cecilia is mad that she's there because she thinks her husband may have followed her. Her sister, on the other hand, has some news. She pulls out her phone and shows her a story that says her husband has died. It's hard for Cecilia to understand. She tells James and Emily how he would control everything about her, from how she looked to how she talked and thought. Physical abuse wasn't the only thing he did. Cecilia can leave the house more easily the next day. They give her praise for getting the letters on her own, and his daughter Sydney is one of her friends. James finds that one of the letters is meant for her. After that, Cecilia and Emily are in a law firm. Adrian's brother, who is also a lawyer, reads the will of the person who died. The person who died left Cecilia $5 million, but only if she is never charged with a crime or found to be mentally unstable. That night, she gives Sydney and James a gift as a treat to thank them for taking care of her. James gets a big ladder, and Sydney gets enough money in the bank to go to fashion school. After having fun, Cecilia goes to her room. She feels like someone is watching her all the time. James gets up the next morning and goes to work. He tells Cecilia to wake up Sydney. She does that and leaves the stove on at the same time. The girl puts out the fire with a fire extinguisher after the food starts to burn. Later that day, Cecilia is at home by herself and feels something is off. She goes to check it out. She looks through the whole house but can't find anything. Suddenly, she hears the front door open. Cecilia looks at the door. Even though no one is there, she still feels off. All of a sudden, a second breath can be seen next to her. Sydney's room is where Cecilia and Sydney sleep the same night. All of a sudden, something takes their covers off and plays with the room's lights, waking Cecilia up. I think I quickly see someone in the room, but it turns out to be Sydney's mannequin. She then picks up the covers from the floor and throws them at the chair next to her because she thinks someone is sitting there. No one is there. Clothes don't move when she pulls on them. It looks like someone is standing on them when she looks at them. Sydney wakes up when Cecilia calls for James, and he runs into the room right away. He tells her not to let the thought of Adrian bother her, because neither he nor his daughter see anyone else. This makes her a little less upset. Cecilia is going on a job interview. He flirts with her while they're sitting down, but when he sees that she's worried, he asks to see her work. She opens the bag and her work isn't inside. She gets very angry and doesn't wake up. This is James with her in the hospital. The doctor tells her to take it easy until the blood results come back. She hears the phone ring while she is in the shower. She picks up the phone and hears her doctor telling her that she passed out because she has too much Valium in her body. There is a bottle of Valium on the bathroom sink, which Cecilia sees. A red fingerprint is on it. After that, Cecilia took James to see Adrian's brother with her. She tells them about the Valium bottle and says Adrian put it there, but her brother kicks her out. Following this, she says she doesn't think he's dead because she thinks he's found a way to disappear, and her brother knows about it. People like James and Adrian's brother are shocked. He talks about how his brother hurt him by going inside his head. He tells her that he was glad when his brother died and shows her a picture of Adrian's dead body. Cecilia visits Emily, and after an awkward talk, her sister tells her that she read her mean email about how she feels about her. Adrian sent the email, not Cecilia, she tells her. Em tells her to get help because she doesn't believe her. That night, Cecilia checks her email to see what she sent and finds the message she sent to Emily. When Sydney walks in, she sees her crying on the floor. After some words of comfort, they choose to go out. There is a hit on Sydney when she stands up. She calls her dad right away because she thinks Cecilia hurt her. She tries hard to explain to them that she didn't hit the girl, but they won't believe her, so they leave her alone in the house. Adrian is there in some way, and Cecilia starts to call for him. She grabs a bag of coffee and spreads it out on the floor of one of the rooms. Then she sits down on the end, different from the door. She talks to him and begs to be left alone because she is sure Adrian is there. After a thought, she calls his phone. When it rings, she can hear it in the celling. Celia goes up into the celling to look for him, but she doesn't see anyone. She calls the phone again and walks toward it. That's where she finds Adrian's keys, a knife, and her design work. Because of a noise coming from behind her, she grabs a paintbrush and throws it at the hole of the celling. Suddenly, the shape of a man appears. She comes down from the celling to look for him. In the kitchen, she hears water running. There is paint all over the sink. She is quickly picked up by an unseen hand. It throws her around the house. They fight, and then it comes after her and tries to choke her. She fights it off and leaves the house. She calls an Uber and asks the driver to take her to the house where she used to live with Adrian. She tells the Uber to wait when they get to the house. Zeus comes in with Cecilia as she walks in. The dog follows her to the lab in the basement and stops right in front of one of the gadgets. She looks at a tablet that is attached to the wall to try to figure out what it is. She manages to turn off the device, which slowly reveals an invisible suit. As Cecilia puts on the mannequin's suit, the dog barks and runs towards something, letting her know that someone else is in the house. The guy who can't be seen follows Cecilia to the dressing room in the bedroom, where she tries to hide. He opens the door, but strangely, he doesn't see her right away. The dog barks at him, and she runs away. She calls Emily in the Uber and asks to meet up that night. While she waits for her sister in a restaurant, Cecilia looks nervously at the empty seat next to her. What she found in Adrian's house that would show he's still alive is what she tells Emily when she gets there. All of a sudden, a knife appears out of nowhere and kills Emily. It's in Cecilia's hands in an instant. When someone in the restaurant screams, everyone freaks out and moves away from her. Cecilia has been caught and is being held. She is being taken to an institution while yelling that she didn't do it. She looks around the empty room and says that Adrian killed her sister and that she knows he's there. She's put to sleep and left alone. The words surprise and footsteps coming toward her can be heard. Cecilia is being questioned by James and another officer. She tells them she has proof about Adrian, but can't say what it is because they can't see him in the room. She asks James if he believes her after the other officer leaves. She says she feels bad, but James also feels bad in his own way. After a while, Cecilia talks to a doctor who tells her that she's pregnant and that it happened in the last month. Her brother comes to visit her in the hospital the next day. He's there to tell her that she can't have Adrian's money anymore because she's been charged with a crime and could be found mentally unfit to handle it. She puts him down by saying that he is like his narcissistic psychopath brother. He tells her she can either sign the paper and give up the money, or she can have the baby and go back to Adrian. He tells her over the phone that they can start a new life together. She says no and takes one of his pens when he's not looking. He tells her he'll be back in 3 days to hear her final choice. In the evening, Cecilia takes a shower after the orderly checks her room carefully and leaves. As she cuts into her veins with the pen, she tells her, "You won't get the baby." The phantom man grabs her hand all of a sudden, and she stabs him over and over with the pen. When the security guard walks in, he sees the suit that is broken. He goes to shock the man who can't be seen, but instead, he hits the guard with the stun gun. She tries to run, but 2 guards quickly stop her. As they take her back to her room, the man shows up again and kills them. More keep coming, and one by one, they all suffer the same end without knowing what's going on. The man drops the gun after killing the last guard on that floor. His hand is taken by Cecilia as she runs after him. She follows him down the stairs and shoots him. Both of them leave the building and go outside into the heavy rain. The gun is in Cecilia's hand as she looks for him. She hears a noise and goes after it, but security guards are also after her. She walks up to an open trunk nearby because she thinks that's where he's hidden. He grabs her quickly and starts to choke her, telling her that he will hurt the people she cares about, like Sydney, if she doesn't give in. Cecilia goes after him again, but as soon as she steps outside the fence, the man in the picture drives quickly toward her, hitting another car in the process. Cecilia steals that car and keeps after him over and over again. She calls James from the car and tells him to protect Sydney by going back to the house. The man who can't be seen comes to the house and goes into her room. She wakes up and takes the pepper spray out of her bag. She sprays him with water because she can hear him moving. He trips and falls. The woman screams and runs away, but the man grabs her. The man then starts beating James when he gets to the house at that moment. Cecilia comes in and hits him with a fire extinguisher and then shoots him dead. Sydney begs him to stop hitting her dad. When she takes off the mask and walks over to the body, she sees that it was Adrian's brother. There are cries for help coming from inside Adrian's house as a special police unit goes through it. When the cops break down a wall in the basement, they find Adrian tied up. Later, James tells Cecilia how he was found, but she doesn't think he was the person his brother killed. She thinks Adrian set up his brother, which makes her feel like she's the crazy one. James tries to persuade her otherwise. She goes back to the house that night. He's ready for her and excited to see her. She's not as happy to see him, though. As they sit down to dinner, he tries to be open and honest with her, says sorry, and says he's learned his lesson. She keeps telling him that his brother was controlling him, even though she knows he did everything she asked him to. James is outside the house, listening to everything they are saying, while Cecilia keeps asking for him to come in. As she cries, Adrian comes over to calm her, but he quickly turns controlling again. He can be seen waiting for her at the table while she goes to the bathroom to clean up. He gets antsy after she's been gone for a while and kills himself out of the blue. When Cecilia comes back after a moment, she calls the police right away. She moves out of the way so the security camera can't see her, then sits down and watches him die. I heard something bad happen, so James ran to the house and saw Cecilia leave. He hears her say that Adrian killed himself, but James sees the suit in her duffel bag and asks her if she knew all along. Cecilia doesn't give a straight answer. She leaves the house without taking anything with her. Thank you for watching. Don't forget like, comment, subscribe for more videos like this, turn on the notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.